On his hero release trailer, he was terrifying. He was the ultimate jungle king, jungle assassin, and we are talking about Khaimera. Unfortunately, he fell off with the introduction of Monolith, but I think, guys, in all honesty, he is back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a hero build and guide. I am Sylphin. Of course, we start off with the numbers for Khaimera. Now, he is a very interesting jungler. He's just a jungler. That's it. He doesn't belong in any other lanes. And in the early game, he actually has really good ganking potential, and his assassin nature really comes out. In the late game, it actually transitions into more of a frontline bruiser, frontline tank, really, if you even want to build him like that. And we're going to see how his stats actually accentuate that fact. So his basic attack is actually really quite good. 0.65 power scaling, almost 0.7, which is very close to the lowest of the carries at 0.85. So his basic attack hurts. It starts out fairly okay, increases mediocrely to 72 with a 1.2 second cooldown. In the early game, that feels like forever. He swings really quite slow, it feels like anyways, but he does gain a little bit of attack speed, just a wee little bit at 0.6 here, to end up at 108.4 at level 15. So there's a reason why this is, and that is because of his Q. We're going to skip his right click for a second. It's Q. What happens is you get maximum attack speed. You attack 2.5 times per second for 5 hits with different scaling. So at level 4, you have 82.5% total damage scaling. So that's including you use your basic attack, but it's reduced. So it only does 82.5% damage for those 5 hits that are super quick, with a 10-second cooldown and mana cost of 75. So the mana cost is something you have to pay attention with, especially in the early game. The late game, you can just go ham, especially with a 10-second cooldown. It's a really good source of his damage, really good source of his boost, and his regeneration, which we'll talk about later. His right click is his ambush. At a 5-second cooldown, you can spam the snot out of this ability because, well, it's powerful. Here in the late game, it's reduced to 50 mana cost, but in the early game, kind of gotta be careful. When you use it, you gain 3 stacks of spirit regeneration, and at 0.25 power scaling, doesn't do all that much damage. You just use it for that gap closing ability. His passive here is his E, spirit regeneration. On hit of your basic attack, which also works on your Q, you gain health regen on hit. At level 4, 3.25 health regen on hit. So this stacks up a ton. I believe up to 70 or so health regen per second. Stacks to about that, and it's a great source of his sustain in the early and mid game. Late game simply falls off. Now his ultimate is Call, 0.8 power scaling. It hurts. Level 3, 450 damage. Even here in the early game, 250. Youchies, it really hurts. So cooldown of 90 down to 50 in the late game. You can really gank and use this as pretty much as you want, especially with a mana cost of 75. You also gain 6 stacks of spirit regeneration when you use it. So your right mouse button into your ultimate, into your Q, gains you quite a bit of stacks automatically. That's the 9 there plus the 5. That's 14 stacks of spirit regeneration if you can do the Khaimera combo. We take a look at his base stats here. You can see that he transitions into a tank in the late game. He has 1691 health in the late game, which is the most out of all the heroes. Even like Steel and Richter, he is a base tanky. He's just base tanky. He's tanky with a good health regen, mana regen, just like in a normal caster. Attack speed, again, not that much. Base armor and ability armor, just like other fighters and other tanks. So as you can see, the early game potential here is actually really good. With, again, in the late game, still, obviously, all of that damage is still there, but just relative to everybody else, kind of falls off. Unless you build him as a pure assassin. But his base stats does lend very well to late game tankiness. Now, when we talk about that late game tankiness, you need to keep in mind a few things. You want equal damage reduction for both basic damage and ability damage. You do take a little bit more ability damage overall, but this is it's not that much. I would say it's only about like 57% incoming damage is ability damage, so it's not that significant. So you want equal damage reduction for both types. Now, how do you get that? Well, Khaimera here, his base stats are that of a melee tank, and when you are putting in points into tankiness on Khaimera, you have to remember that his health regen does kick in, does give you a bit of health. It's really not going to be much in the late game, as well, hopefully you can stay alive for a while, because you've built into the tankiness, but it's not going to be overly much. It's not going to be overly much, so you have to keep that in mind. Since we know that the average time that you're able to swing at the enemy, in my recent investigations, go check out that video, burst or DPS. We know that using that assumption with a little bit of kind of on the cuff math, Khaimera is probably going to regenerate anywhere between 150 on the low end to 300, maybe even 400 health in the course of that average engagement. Obviously longer, the much better it is. So with that in mind, that's really only between 3 to 7, 8 CP's worth of health. So you can take that into consideration when you are looking at this stuff here. Shout out to Board Pyro for this post, and huge shout out to Narender for that amazing Google Docs that you just saw before. Fantastic stuff that he does there. So when you take a look here, depending on how much points you're spending into tankiness, it depends on what you do. Now, if you're spending 30 points into tankiness, this is the distribution you want. 24 CP into health, 2 into basic armor, and 4 into ability armor. Now, what you need to do is take out that health you're going to get back from health regeneration. So anywhere between 22 to maybe even 18 health, additional health, you build that. Then for basic armor, you have to add on top of this penetration that the enemy team is going to do. Usually it's only about 3 CP's worth, so this now turns into 5 basic armor. Ability armor is a bit different. People definitely tend to get anywhere between 20 to 30 ability pen quite frequently, and that is a lot of CP. That is anywhere between 5 to 7, 5 to 8 CP's worth of armor that you just need to counteract ability pen. So this can turn into anywhere from 9 plus CP's worth of ability armor, or just to make this mathematically sound. So this looks more like, maybe in some cases, more like 20, 25, and 9. 25 and 9, something like that. But hopefully, I just want to maybe teach you, maybe help you to understand the process so that you guys can do this by yourself. You guys can, when you're building your decks, to make it really quite optimal, you guys can go over to this post here, Tankiness in Monolith, Maximize Your Effective Health by Board Pyro, and you guys can do that math using the same process that I just used myself. Now, when we take a look at my optimal DPS calculator and stat optimizer for Khaimera, we can see something very interesting. If you put 50 CP into power and pen, attack speed, crit chance, but not that crit bonus. Crit bonus is on top of this. We can see something very interesting. DPS, not that much. He's not a carry, but his distribution of his stats is interesting. You can see 16, 15 attack speed. He doesn't gain that much attack speed, so you need that attack speed to increase his DPS because he hits so slow. Now remember, there is a consideration. His Q gives him unlimited attack speed, so your attack speed is not going to help you while you are using your Unleash. That is a consideration. Now, power and penetration here is pretty high at 16, but it's not as high as crit chance, simply because 250% increased damage is That's really valuable. That is great. That is why we want almost 80% crit chance here on the math side in order to increase our DPS the most. Just because that's just so valuable, that is why it's so emphasized in the math. Now, what is this number? What are these numbers over here? Well, this is what we have in the build. And you're probably like, why is this 19, 7, and 12? Well, partly because we're trying to do a hybrid. We're trying to do a hybrid, kind of a hybrid tank, hybrid carry on Khaimera for this build. This is very interesting. Now, this adds up to 38. So we put 38 in there. Look how far off we are. We're going very much into power. We're going way more into power than we should, simply because we're trying to emphasize his burst nature. He can get in there, burst somebody down really quick, but then with some key cards, we're going to be able to maybe stay in that fight a little bit longer and let the value of crit chance and attack speed kick in after that. Plus give us some health and stuff like that. You're going to see that this does work indeed. So this is the build that you guys are going to see closer up. We should be getting a little bit more crit chance. I can't make it work. I've got as much crit chance as we possibly can with the equipment slots, with the limited equipment slots that we do have. So that's simply how it's going to be. But what you guys can definitely take away from this is look at how valuable each stat is in relation to each other. Look at how crit is so good on Khaimera, simply because his low scaling on his basic attack and his low attack speed scaling. That's, since they are so weak, that makes crit the king, and obviously you can see that here with crit really kicking off. Next is power, just because, probably because it is relatively high. It's still 0.65. It's not 0.5 or 0.6. So power is still valuable, with attack speed coming in last, but not terribly last. So that's still quite valuable. Again, so if you guys go down here on yourself, when you go to the Google Doc link down below, you guys can check this out for yourself. And this is something that you guys can check out there, as this is really the only important thing. Here is the build, the Jungle Bear. I have the Jungle Beast, which is more of a damage focused build. This is the Jungle Bear, a little bit more of a tanky kind of thing with, as you can see, obviously some great damage potential. So you go for the Centurion just because we need that health in the late game, or you know, a 15-minute mark anyways. Even by that point, you still have quite a bit of CP into power and attack speed, so you're a-okay there with the Centurion, just enabling you to stay there, do your thing, and emphasize the fact that you can get in there and do some pretty crazy things. Now, we have a health token, a strike token, just as some consumables, just because he is very interesting with his early starting cards. Very interesting with his early starting cards, so that's just filler. We have a Blink Charm because he really can use a Blink Charm, especially if there's a high CC team that you happen to draft against. I would pick Khaimera if there's a high CC team, but it is still there if you need it. Now, you start off with the Guardian's Scythe, because his passive gives you health regen on basic attack. You get your regen first, and then you can get the Scythe, which really increases the pace at which you can clear those camps. So this is definitely really good. You don't need to upgrade this. Straight up don't need to upgrade it. You get 3 CP of value as soon as you equip it. That's a-okay by me, simply because you want the next 3 CP to go into this ward, because you need those ward for vision to protect your ward, to protect your jungle, and also ward the enemy jungle. Again, 3 CP as soon as you equip it. A-okay with me. It's not 4, but that's a-okay. Ignore those. Ignore the upgrades here, as you then go into a Madstone Gem or a Flashfire Piston. If you are really ahead, you can go ahead, I suppose, and get these minor casts. But at this time, you have a fair bit of power. You have a fair bit of power. So you actually go into this Flashfire Piston. You can upgrade the Shaze's Ward if you want. You can get that. And because you have all of this power, actually, you need to go into this Flashfire Piston, believe it or not. At that point, you see that power and attack speed are basically the same value in terms of increasing your DPS. So get this flash fire piston, then this Madstone gem. I would, though, personally, I would still go for this Madstone gem to emphasize this kind of bursty nature, especially just to secure kills with your ultimate and your ambush and stuff like that. So Guardian Scythe, Sage's Ward, Madstone gem, then the flash fire piston. I'm just telling you that so that why I'm diverging from what the math says. So Guardian Scythe, Sage's Ward, Madstone gem, flash fire piston. That's a good source of really game damage that really works well. Now you have some options. You can go into this Thunder Cleaver if people are doing well in lane, you just need to clear the jungle camp faster, get this Thunder Cleaver. Boom, you have crazy lane clearing potential and jungle camp clearing potential. If you just need to keep doing your thing, if you're not really getting focus, but there's some CC that's really messing you up, get this Hunter's Guile. Remove all debuffs from your hero so you can immediately get out of CC, not stuns, but any other CC, boom, get out of that. Continue doing your thing, which Khaimera is that's important for Khaimera. He needs to keep on attacking. Just keep swinging. Or, if you're just kind of getting completely obliterated, get this Blink Charm so you have an emergency escape tool. Lots of the other cards in here don't have that, like Stab Blink for example, which apparently not even here. Sorry, Blink Shot. You could get Blink Shot at, if you like, especially since Khaimera does have his ambush, so you can blink forward and then use your ambush for some crazy gap closing. You can get this if you want, but Blink Charm is just much more of a escape tool just because it has a lower cooldown. But Blink Charm is actually Blink Shot. That's actually kind of, the more I think about it, the more I actually kind of like it, to be honest with you. So you can get Blink Shot if you want instead of this Blink Charm, and in fact, let's go for it. He does have the potential to continue to secure kills and reset that timer. So there you guys go. That's one immediate little tweak here that the more I think about it, you can do. So there's that Blink Shot. If you are just getting completely annihilated, you need that emergency blink. Boom. There's a Blink Shot. Plus, it gives you some power. Plus, you can actually reset it if you can secure some kills. Those are your options. Hunter Guile, Blink Shot, or Thunder Cleaver. That's kind of your options. If you don't really need any of that, which I don't think would happen very much, you go into your Adamant's Edge. This gives you just more power, a little bit of health, to keep you a little bit relevant now that we're moving into the mid-game. So those are all of your options. You can get all of them, then your Adamant Edge. You can get some of them, then your Adamant Edge. It's really up to you. Now comes the very interesting part of this deck. We have Toxigel and Thermobond in this deck. Now, why do we have these? Toxigel, Burst Cleanse, taking 400 damage within 5 seconds, activates a cleanse. Now, Khaimera needs to keep on attacking, using his basic attack, using his Unleash, to build up his health regen that increases his sustain, therefore making him do more damage, absorb more things, being more of a utility person in the team comp. So be more of a frontline, period. This helps with this tremendously. People will go, the Khaimera's going on, Rampage Rock, Aurora, Hoarfrost, Decker Stun. Like, as soon as Khaimera goes in, they know the Khaimera combo, ambush into your ultimate to get your stacks, into an Unleash. They know that, and it's your job to kind of fool them into using their stuff when you're actually not doing that. So that's something we'll talk about later. But that is just what people do. Khaimera engages, they go, oh crap. Then they use all their stuff. This cleanse will help eliminate those stuns, help eliminate those CCs, and keep you doing your thing, which increases his viability tremendously. Plus Thermobond here will amplify on top of that. Not only will they stun or root you or knock you up, not only will that effect just not happen, but you'll also get your maximum health back. So not only are Thermobond passive is going to be taken off on you. You're going to get that health regen. You're also going to be able to keep doing your thing because of Toxigel, and you're going to be getting your health regen stacks from attacking your targets. Do you see how that all compounds onto each other to keep doing your thing? Your tankiness comes from your health regen, your passive, and thermal bond, and your Toxigel. It comes from that. So it's a very interesting take on kind of being tanky, especially with Khaimera. He has a very unique opportunity, I think, with his kit. So you get, I would think, Toxigel first, and then thermal bond. Toxigel first, just because in the early mid game, you're just gonna want to keep doing your thing, or else you're just gonna get stunned and just obliterated. Get Toxigel first, I would say, and then thermal bond. Once you get that, then you move into the high damage part of the build. You don't do these upgrades in Hunter's Guile. You save them for later, but then you go into your Spear of the Rift Hunter for a whole bunch of crit. Then you go into your Blast Harness to get that crit bonus, and then you finish it off with your upgraded Guardian's Ward, and then the upgrades on Hunter's Guile. Quite an orthodox build, very much late game in terms of when the damage actually starts happening, but in the early game, lots of damage. In the mid game, that utility, and then in the late mid game, late end game, then all the damage kind of really comes in when, you know, maybe you're getting our prime and stuff like that. So very interesting build here. Final build: thermal bond, blast harness, Toxigel, Hunter's Guile, Spear of the Rift Hunter, and Guardian's Ward. Now here we are with the guide portion of this video. You start over here on the right side of the camp. Go to the I did this a little backwards, unfortunately. I go to the back camp, and then I go to the green camp. What you want to do is go to that front camp and then the green camp. So I just do a little bit, little bit behind, which you'll see there hurts in the when we go to the river camp. So once you get that green buff, focus down that green buff, then you unleash the snot out of those other white camps, just so that you can try to keep as much of this camp as possible. So as you can see, I have just barely enough time to go back to this camp over here and then go to the river camp. So unfortunately, I did that rotation a little bit off. As you can see, if I had gotten that one white camp, we would have been level 3. I would have been able to gank here in this mid game. I tried to maybe do something for that rampage, and I'm being a little weird this game. I'm not sure. I don't really remember being all this weird. But anyways, as you can see, the Guardian Scythe and his passive is more than enough to have sustain in this game, which is fantastic. Now you see we come over here to take these white camps a little bit more. You do this, you do your strong jungle again, you clear that out again, then you head over to your weak jungle. Now that you've cleared out the strong jungle again, you come over here, boom, 5 stack white camps over here in this off jungle. Fabulous, perfect, exactly what you need. As you can see there, we have about 20 seconds left over. At this time, I come over here to try to gank, but the dagger actually ends up going in, which I'm like, fine, we can do that. Eliminate this Murdoch, easy peasy. You can see that we are definitely have all of our abilities upgraded, unlocked at least. We're starting off with your passive, then your unleash, and then your ambush. At least that's me. I try to focus on getting to level 5 as much as possible, just because all of your junglers, really, a lot of them are assassins. At least here, at least you kind of treat them like that when they gank in the early game. And getting your ultimate is just so damn important. We come back over here into our strong jungle. As you can see, they're nice leveled up 3 camps just as we reach them. Perfect. We get one of them. We get the green buff. Do the rest of our strong jungle again, and we're definitely at level 5 at this point. Now, you always want to be getting these jungle camps, or these river camps. River buffs. Sorry, it's early in the morning. you always want to get them because they help you gank. More so than anything else, they help you gank. We come over here. I don't use my ambush because I want to save it for when they juke me out just like that. Easy peasy kill on that Morigesh, and we try to pressure out this Rampage for our duo there. So great gank on my part, great stun, and as you can see here, I'm like, oh, hello there, Bellica, I'm gonna dive you. I have the green buff. Did I? I'm not sure, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I can eliminate that Bellica as fast as possible. I'm really lucky in that I actually somehow wasn't affected by her stun, so that was very lucky on my part. But that is the Khaimera combo. Right click into your ultimate, into your Q, boom. Now, I'm gonna say this probably multiple times in this video. It's your job to be as unpredictable with that combo as possible. Don't always, at least if you're not going to be, you know, immediately damaged, don't always ambush on top of somebody first. Don't always. If you know that they're going to immediately use their teleport, their dash, their movement ability, don't. Force it out of them first by maybe running up to them into your ultimate, then they use their use their movement ability, then you use your ambush. Try to be a little bit unpredictable. With that Bellica, for example, I probably maybe should have waited for her to use her stun. You know she's going to use it. That's her what she's going to do to try to escape. Wait, bait it out, and then you can use your ambush into a Q, into your ultimate, etc. So I'm going to probably say this a few times this game. Be as cautious as you can with when you use your quite predictable abilities. Now it's your job as a jungler to always be rotating as much as possible and at least showing face. At least if you are able to show your face in the enemy's safe lane, that usually ends up, you know, messing them around. So there is a perfect example of me waiting for that Murdoch to do his thing. I just kind of run up to him, use my ultimate, which is a very short stun. Guys, remember that you can interrupt people's channeled abilities and just most abilities with your ultimate. And then he uses his knockaway. Then I used my ambush. So that was a great example. He was taken out. Khaimera is the ultimate punisher for people that are overextended. I come in here from behind on this Decker, and I'm like, okay, so our friendly Decker here has engaged, and I'm like, ooh, yikes. Not much is going to happen here, so I unfortunately have no mana, which is a pretty serious issue on Khaimera, and low health. That's not necessarily that big of an issue, as he has great health regen, but with no mana, I have to go back. We're trying to rotate, trying to at least put pressure, because a Khaimera that's always around can strike fear into pretty much any laner. One little tip in the jungle. And the early game, the cooldown for your regen stacks to fall off is less than your basic attack speed. So that means if you miss a single basic attack, your health regen stacks fall off before you can attack again. So you have to make sure that you land each basic attack in order to keep your health regen stacks. Map awareness is king on somebody like Khaimera, and fantastic Decker stun into a great gank there in the early game. At this point, I'm like, I'm going to put some pressure. We have numbers advantage. I'm going to ward the enemy jungle, which you absolutely should. And I'm like, I hear a Decker. So I'm like, let's go to town, baby. If you're going to do that, I couldn't use my ambush on her through the fog wall, unfortunately. And a great Rampage Rock prevents me from diving that Decker. Now, at this point, I choose to use my Q as soon as I see that Rampage uses ultimate, because I wanted to burst him down. So be conscientious of when you use your abilities on Khaimera, as while he's a fairly simple, he's a well, 3-button hero, I guess. Q, R, and your right click besides your basic attack. Alright, not much point in me saying that, but He's fairly simple, but nuanced. Very nuanced. Just like Greystone, who's much more nuanced, I would say, and much more simple in nature. You can do quite a bit with Khaimera. So at this point, I want to show you this because Khaimera, he has an issue with escapes. And as you can see here with my build, if we pause it here for a moment, as I'm getting a rock to the face, as I'm being quite aggressive, I am pushing our advantage pretty hard. I don't have the blink shot because I didn't feel like I need it, or blink charm here, as we just tweaked that. I went into my ward, my Madstone Gem, Flashfire Piston, and just straight into the Adamant Edge. I didn't really feel like there is CC on the enemy team. I wasn't actually being focused too much, ironically, being the only frontliner for our team. So I went into the Adamant Edge, but that bit me in the butt here. I was overextended. I was trying to press our advantage here and trying to use them out of position, but a fantastic ult here takes me out, and see, so there you guys go. With a blink shot in there, I would have been able to get away right at the beginning, somewhere in there, something like that. So Khaimera, he has an escape issue. He definitely suffers from being behind, so you guys got to be really careful with exactly what you do there. So here I am going into my Spear of the Rift Hunter because I feel like we have such an advantage. I don't need anything, and I be my front line a little too much. As you can see, the great stun there. I don't have my Hunter's Guile or my Toxic Gel or anything to have mitigated that Decker's stun, and my regen just isn't allowed to go. Yes, my team does kind of utilize my sacrifice there a little bit, but at this point I'm going a little bit too much in this game into my Spear of the Rift Hunter here, because we have the lead. Even going into my Blast Harness at this point, should have probably have gotten my Toxic Gel or my Thermobond here at this point. And here's the final push of the game here. As you can see, I haven't gotten any of my tanky stats, simply because that's not what I have needed so far. At least what I felt like in game, anyways. I'm going ham on this Decker. I get her, I turn around, I'm like, just keep swinging, just keep swinging. Look, that would have been 2 Thermobonds already at this point. That would have helped tremendously. So we're kind of like, I've got to let this Orb Prime kick in, give me some health here, and we just kind of continue on for the win. Fantastic friendly team here that enabled me to be a damage dealer instead of the front line, which was very interesting. So not necessarily a showcase of the tanky part of this build, but I just wanted to show this to you as the diversity of this build. You don't necessarily need to go for those cards if you don't have to. And as you can see there, even if we did, it would have been extremely effective. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this build. Yes, it's not a traditional tank build with a lot of armor and health and stuff like that, but it is my take on a tankier assassin hero by nature, and that is Khaimera. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this build. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys found this enjoyable, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.